Good morning, guys. Today we are going to see another concept called evaluation of programming languages. Now we are going to see another new concept called evaluation of programming languages. Previously, we have briefly seen language processing system, how the language is processing, as well as the structure of the compiler. We have seen these two topics. Now we have to see briefly about the evaluation of programming languages. That means simply what are the various generation of languages, how they are evolved. Briefly, we have to see about the evaluation of those programming languages. So when we come to the evaluation of the languages, the first thing is in 1940s. Okay, the computers has came into existence from 1940s onwards. It has started to use the computers. At that time in 1940s, while the computers are used by the people, okay, the language that is the only language available at that time is the machine language, as we already know. Okay, they are the first generation language is the machine language only at that time in the around 1940s. Only one language that is available is machine language, which each contains only two bits, 0 and 1. Okay, when we come to this language, here everything in this language is a sequence of zeros and ones only. Okay, whenever we want to do any operation on that one, we have to give the instructions only in the form of zeros and ones. Then only it will understand. That is the first generation language, machine level languages. Okay, in the around in the years 1940s. When we come to this machine language, the problem with this machine language is it is slow, tedious, and error prone. Error prone means there is a chance of getting much errors, and tedious means okay, boring. General meaning of this tedious can be defined as a boring or too long. Okay, since the language contains only zeros and ones, this language is very boring for the programmer to learn. Why? Because everything is only a combination of zeros and ones only. So the programmer is not comfortable with this language. Okay, but the drawbacks, and it is very difficult to understand the program written in this machine language and to modify that language. Okay, to make any changes in that program or to understand the program, it is very hard. Why? Because the entire language contains only two characters, zeros and one. That's why the early language, machine language, is very difficult for the programmers to code the program. Later, in 1950s, assembly languages has came into existence. Okay, in the beginning of the 1950s. Okay, since machine language is very difficult and tedious. Okay, later in the 1950s, early 1950s. Okay, some user-friendly programming language was developed. Those are called the assembly languages, mnemonic assembly languages. We call them as mnemonic assembly languages. Here, the word mnemonic means nothing but sequence of characters. Okay, when we come to this assembly language, for every operation, we will use some okay, for every operation instruction, some symbols or mnemonics will be there. For example, to do addition operation, we have the mnemonic ADD. Okay, capital ADD indicates addition operation. Subtraction, we are using SUB. For moving the values from one location to another location, the operation is MOV, move operation, like that. Okay, mnemonics means sequence of characters which indicates some instruction. Mnemonics means the sequence of characters or literals which indicates some instructions. Clear? Okay, the assembly language is also known as the symbolic language. Why? Because here for every operation or for every instruction, okay, a set of mnemonics or symbols are available. By using those mnemonics only, we can define any operation to the computer. Clear? Okay, here for every operation there is some, for every instruction some name is there. For addition, ADD is the name. For subtraction, SUB is the name. Like that, for every operation some name is there. Instead of using zeros and ones with for indicating the operations, we use the mnemonics. Clear? And one more advantage with this assembly language is, okay, when we are using assembly language, to convert this assembly language we have to use some machine language. To convert assembly language to machine language, we have to use a translator called assembler. since assembly language is not directly in zeros and ones, to make convert that assembly language to machine language, we have to use one translator that is called the assembler is there. But what this assembler will do is the while converting the assembly language to machine language, the assembler will maintain the address locations of the data. Okay, while code converting the lines in the addressing assembly language into the machine language, the assembler will maintain the address information, which code is going to which register. It will maintain the addresses of the registers which contain the source code. Okay, which contains the machine code. Whenever it converts some line one to machine code, and it will save that line one. After converting line one to machine code, it will save it in some register. It will maintain that address in which register line one code is there, in which register line two code is there, in which register line three code is there. Like that, wherever it keep the code, all the address locations will be maintained by this assembler. That is the one more advantage. We can easily, it will maintain the addresses. The assembler will maintain the addresses locations of the data code in the memory. Clear? But one problem with this assembly languages is the assembly language is purely the system dependent language. Okay, it will be changed from system to system. Okay, the mnemonics are instructions will change from CPU to CPU depending on the processor and operating system we are using. The set of mnemonics or the set of instructions will be changed from one CPU to another CPU depending on your processor only. Okay, every processor will have its own set of instructions. Okay, they may or may not be same. Okay, that is the problem in assembly language. When we talk assembly language compared to machine language, somewhat easy. Assembly languages are somewhat easy, but the problem with assembly languages is okay, assembly language is system dependent. It is changing from processor to processor. So once you learn assembly language for one type of processor, you can't use that assembly language for another type of processor since it is changing from processor to processor. Whenever you are changing your processor, you must learn the assembly language related to that processor. That's the problem with the assembly language. So that the programmer has to know many assembly languages. Then only he can work with any type of processor. Then, okay, when we come to 1960s, okay, at the end of 1950s or at the beginning of the 1960s, okay, a major step has taken to develop the high level languages, which we call as the third generation languages. Generally, assembly languages are called second generation languages. Machine language is called the first generation language, and this one is called as the high level languages are known as the third generation languages. Okay, at the end of 1950s, okay, a major step was taken to develop some higher level languages. That means since assembly language is also system dependent, from assembly language, okay, we jump into the high level languages, such as at the time at the end of the 1950s, some languages like Lisp, Basic, COBOL, Proton, etc. Fortran, formula translation. Okay, like this, some high level languages was developed at the end of 1950s or at the beginning of the 1960s. These languages has developed. Okay, by using these languages, these languages are mainly contains the mathematical formulas. Okay, we can write our mathematical formulas in our normal format. How we are writing in the mathematics, we can write here also. Mathematical formulas can be written naturally. Okay, and when we come to these high level languages, either Fortran, COBOL, Basic, or Lisp, okay, since they are in the high level language, they must be converted to assembly language by using some compiler. Okay, by using some translator called compiler. First, high level language must be converted to assembly language. Then assembler will convert that assembly language program to machine language. Okay, whenever we are writing in high level language, in the middle we have to use compiler and assembler. Compiler will convert high level to assembly language, and assembler will convert from assembly language to machine language. Okay, when we come to these high level languages, these are very populated. Okay, most of the people has interested in learning these high level languages. Okay, they have the high level language has become very popular. The only reason why high level languages has become popular is all the high level languages are basically in normal English only. They are basically in normal English. And one more advantage of the high level languages is, okay, these high level languages are system independent. Okay, they are the system independent. We can write the same program in for any machine. Okay, we can use the same program for any type of machine. The source code need not to be changed. The same source code can be used for any type of machine. That means any system which contains any processor. That is the thing. The same program can be easily used for different machines which contain different processors. When we are writing the programs in high level languages at the end of 1950s or in the beginning of 1960s, some high level languages like Fortran, COBOL, Basic, Lisp, etc. was developed. These high level languages are known as the third generation languages. When we come to the assembly languages, they are known as the second generation, and the machine languages are known as the first generation languages. Okay, today we have thousands of programming languages are there now in the current world. Thousands of programming languages are available. Okay, they have. Okay, we can classify those languages by their generation. Okay, basing on their generation, we can classify those thousands of languages into different generations. Namely, the generations are first generation languages, second generation languages, third generation languages, fourth generation languages, and fifth generation languages. Okay, we can classify the languages into different categories by using their generation as first generation languages, second, third, fourth, and fifth. When we come to the first generation languages, as we already told, the first generation languages are the machine languages, which contains only zeros and ones, and everything must be in the zeros and ones only. Every instruction, every data must be represented in zeros and ones only in the first generation languages. When we come to the second generation languages, these are the assembly languages. Okay. When we come to these assembly languages, these are basing on the mnemonics. Mnemonics are instructions. Mnemonics. The assembly languages are mainly basing on the mnemonics. Okay. The assembly languages are also known as symbolic languages. Clear. These assembly languages are system dependent, depending on the processor. Assembly language will be variant from processor to processor. Okay, these are the second generation languages called assembly languages. And when we come to third generation languages, the higher level languages are known as the high level languages, are called as third generation languages. Some examples of high level languages are regularly we are using C, C++, Python, Java. All these are the high level languages. Fortran, COBOL, Lisp, everything. All these languages are called the high level languages or third generation languages. Okay, generally these are the programming languages for the various purposes. When we come to the fourth generation languages, these are the languages which are designed for specific application only. Okay, for a particular application only, some languages are developed. Such languages are known as the fourth generation languages. One best example for this fourth generation language is our SQL. We know for database management system, currently you have this one, DBMS is there. Okay, for writing queries in DBMS, we are using one language called SQL, structured query language. It is only for specific database only. Okay, for the communication with the database only, we are using the SQL. For not doing any other programs. Okay, not for addition of numbers like that we are using SQL not for doing the other works. Only we are using SQL for communication with the database. Okay, that's why SQL is also a programming language, but it is designed only for the particular application databases. Okay, for databases only they will be work. Similarly, Nomad is there. It is used for report generation only. PostScript language is there. It is used for text formatting. Like this, these are some examples of fourth generation languages which are used for particular application only. Clear. And when we come to the fifth generation languages, okay, these languages are based on logic and constraint. Okay, some examples of fifth generation languages are Prolog and OPS5. OPS5 and Prolog languages. Okay, these are mainly basing on the logic and constraint. That means These languages are mainly used in artificial intelligence and expert systems. Okay, for writing artificial intelligence programs and expert systems, we are using these fifth generation languages. Okay, these are mainly basing on the conditions, constraints, that is conditions and logic. For example, while we are writing a code for the robot, we want to give some instructions to the robot. There we use, that means you want to give some artificial intelligence to the robot. So for that robot, we have to give the constraints. Okay, for this condition, you have to do this work. For this condition, you have to do this work. Like that, we have to give the set of constraints to that one, and we have to give the logic to that one. Okay, whenever this constraint is meant, what we have to do. When this constant is met, what it has to do. Okay, everything here is logic and constraint based. Mainly this Prolog and OPSY are used in artificial intelligence and expert systems. Okay, briefly, this is the evaluation of the computer languages. Okay, from 1940s to 1950s assembly language, 1940s machine level language, 1960s onwards high level languages. And when we come to this from 1916 onward, lot of languages has came. If you open the internet, we can see number of languages are there. Only we have given here two or three examples, but lot of languages are there. Thousands of languages are available. Okay, from 1960 onwards, so thousands of high level languages are there. When we come to these high level languages, one major advantage is all these are basing on the English only. That is the major advantage of these high level languages. Okay, this is briefly somewhat about the evaluation of programming languages. Okay, thank you.